Hello everyone, welcome back to Plant Versus. In today's video, I'll be talking about one of the most iconic fragrant flowering plants in the world, the Mogra, also known as the Arabian Jasmine. And honestly, if there's one plant that truly represents the very soul of fragrance in tropical gardens, it has to be Jasmine. This is not just another fragrant flowering plant. Mogra is deeply connected with perfume, culture, spirituality, traditional gardens, and evening fragrance. And once this plant starts blooming heavily, the entire atmosphere around it changes. In today's video, I'll be covering everything you need to know about this plant. I'll be talking about their fragrance, flowering habits, sunlight requirements, watering needs, soil mix, fertilizer, pruning. Also, I'll be talking about some of the common mistakes people do with this plant and how to get massive blooming throughout the growing season. I'll also share my own personal experience with this plant and why I believe every fragrant garden should have at least one jasmine variety. So without wasting any more time, let's begin. Mogra belongs to the jasmine family, and one of the most commonly grown species is the Jasminum sambac. This species includes several beautiful varieties grown across tropical and subtropical regions. Among them, I grow two varieties, the Arabian Mogra and Butt Mogra. Arabian Mogra usually produces elegant single or double petaled flowers with a classic jasmine fragrance. Butt Mogra, on the other hand, is especially loved for its fuller double petaled flowers that almost resemble tiny white roses when in full bloom. Both are incredibly fragrant, but visually they create slightly different effects in the garden. And honestly, I love both for different reasons. Now let's talk about the fragrance because this is where Mogra becomes truly special. This scent is absolutely powerful. This scent is very sharp, fresh, intense, and deeply floral. This is what I call a true jasmine fragrance. Unlike softer, creamy floral scents, Mogra has a sharper and even penetrating aroma that immediately fills the surrounding atmosphere. And in terms of strength, I would honestly rate its scent a full 10 out of 10. Very few plants can match the kind of projection this plant has and the kind of power the plant displays. And in terms of sweetness, I would rate it around 9 out of 10. The fragrance is sweet, but it also has a very sharp jasmine character that makes it feel extremely rich and refreshing at the same time. This is the exact fragrance profile used in perfumes, attar, jasmine oils, incense, and traditional floral decorations across many cultures. And one of the best things about this plant is that even a small plant can perfume an entire balcony or a sitting area during its flowering season. Now let's quickly talk about the difference between Arabian Mogra and Butt Mogra because many people get confused between them. Arabian Mogra generally has a more jasmine flower shape with slightly simpler blooms and vigorous flowering. This plant is easier to care for. The fragrance is extremely strong and very classic jasmine in character. But Mogra is especially famous for its densely packed double petal flowers. The flowers look fuller, more ornamental, and very elegant. Personally, Butt Mogra feels more luxurious visually, while Arabian Mogra gives a slightly more traditional jasmine appearance. But in terms of fragrance, both are simply outstanding, even though there's a slight difference in fragrance. One thing I truly love about Mogra is that it performs exceptionally well in tropical climates. Unlike some sensitive fragrant flowering plants, Jasmine adapts very well to heat, humidity, and strong growing conditions once established properly. And this plant rewards you continuously. The more sunlight it receives, the heavier the blooms. And honestly, very few things feel better than stepping into garden during evening hours and being suddenly hit with a fresh, strong jasmine fragrance in the air. Now let's talk about the sunlight requirements because this directly impacts the flowering performance. Mogra loves sunlight, and if you want heavy blooming, proper sunlight is absolutely essential. Ideally, please provide at least 5 to 6 hours of direct sunlight daily. More sunlight usually means more branching, more buds, and more flowers. Please try to avoid keeping this plant in too much shade because that makes the plant become leafy and produce very few blooms. In tropical climates, Mogra generally handles strong sunlight very well compared to many other fragrant flowering plants. Now when it comes to watering, Mogra prefers slightly moist soil but not constantly wet soil either. Allow the top layer of soil to dry slightly before watering again. Overwatering can reduce flowering and sometimes lead to root stress and fungal problems. During peak summer, please try to increase the watering frequency depending on the temperature and the pot size. But overall, Jasmine prefers consistency rather than extremes. For soil mix, Mogra prefers rich but well-draining soil. A simple mix of garden soil, compost, coco peat, and sand or perlite works pretty well. Good drainage is very important because Jasmine hates stagnant water around its roots. Now, if you want continuous flowering, feeding becomes very important. Mogra is a very heavy bloomer. That also means Mogra is by default a very heavy feeder, especially during warm active growing months. I personally recommend adding compost or a balanced flowering fertilizer regularly during its growing season. You can also use fertilizers slightly higher in phosphorus to encourage better blooming. And regular pruning combined with feeding can dramatically increase the flower production. Now this part is extremely important because if you want bushy growth and heavy flowering, pruning is very important. Many people avoid pruning jasmine plants because they're afraid of cutting the branches. But honestly, pruning is one of the biggest secrets behind fuller blooming mogra plants. Light pruning encourages branching. More branching means more flowering points, and more flowering points can mean heavier blooming overall. After major flowering cycles, please try to trim the leggy growths that will help the plant stay compact, bushy, and productive. Now coming to pot size and placement, Mogra grows beautifully both in ground and in containers. But if you are growing in pots, avoid very tiny containers. Usually, please try to use a minimum of 10 to 12-inch pots for better long-term healthy growth. And because this plant is highly fragrant, I always recommend placing it near balconies, windows, sitting areas, or any relaxation spaces where it gets proper sunlight. That way you can enjoy the fragrance whenever the plant blooms. Mogra thrives best in warm temperatures. The ideal temperature range is usually between 20 to 35 degrees Celsius. This is also the reason why the plant performs beautifully in tropical and subtropical climates. Warm weather usually encourages faster growth and stronger flowering. And during peak summer and monsoon seasons, flowering can become especially heavy. Honestly, I believe every fragrant garden should have at least one jasmine plant because Mogra is not just about flowers, it creates an atmosphere. The fragrance feels nostalgic, calming, refreshing, and deeply connected to nature. And unlike many seasonal flowering plants, jasmine can continue rewarding you repeatedly throughout the warm months with proper care. So overall, Mogra is one of the most rewarding fragrant flowering plants you can grow. It gives you strong fragrance, beautiful blooms, excellent flowering performance, and a timeless tropical garden feel. Whether you choose the Arabian Mogra or Butt Mogra, both are excellent choices and can be great additions to any fragrant garden. Well, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video on plant verses. If you found this video informative and learned something useful today, please subscribe to this channel and don't forget to like and share this video. Your support truly motivates me to continue creating more detailed and research-based plant videos like this. Also, please let me know in the comments which jasmine variety is your favorite. Well, that's all for today. I'll see you in the next gardening video. Thank you.